On December 21, 1945, a phone call reached Dwight Eisenhower's office in Washington with the news George Patton was dead. For 3 long years, Eisenhower had walked a precarious tightrope, publicly disciplining his most effective general, while privately relying on him to win battles no one else could. He defended Patton against politicians, apologized for him to allies, and restrained him whenever his aggression threatened to spark a diplomatic disaster. Now that Patton was gone, for the first time since the war began, Eisenhower no longer had to measure his words. What he said in the following weeks and months revealed a truth he had buried under layers of political necessity. Patton wasn't just a good general, he was irreplaceable. To Eisenhower, losing him felt like losing the war's most lethal weapon. Long before they were supreme commander and subordinate, they were 2 young officers at Camp Meade in 1919 who understood each other perfectly. As captains in the newly formed Tank Corps, they spent hours tearing down engines and debating tactics, envisioning how mechanized warfare would change the world. Patton was the wealthy aristocrat, brimming with confidence and already a combat veteran of Mexico and France. Eisenhower was the farm boy from Kansas who had missed combat in World War I and was still striving to prove himself. Yet they connected through a shared vision. Tanks were not just support vehicles, they were the future of warfare, fast, mobile, and devastating. When the Army establishment threatened their careers for these radical ideas, the wealthy Patton could afford to be defiant, while Eisenhower, who needed his paycheck, learned to be more guarded with his words. 23 years later, those 2 captains had become the supreme Allied commander in Europe and the most feared general in the American Army. The friendship remained, but the dynamic had shifted. Now Eisenhower had to manage Patton, harnessing his aggression while explaining his controversies to Roosevelt, Churchill, and Marshall. He had to decide when to unleash him and when to hold him back. Patton, meanwhile, resented being managed. He believed Eisenhower had become too political and cautious, concerned more with diplomacy than fighting. This tension simmered throughout the war. 2 men who were once equals, now locked in a relationship where one held the vision and the other held the power to either execute it or stop it. In August 1943, during the invasion of Sicily, Patton slapped and insulted soldiers in field hospitals who were suffering from what we now call PTSD, labeling them cowards. When the news broke, the public was outraged. Eisenhower faced an impossible choice: fire his best combat commander or risk a political firestorm. He chose a middle path, issuing a formal reprimand and ordering Patton to apologize, satisfying the critics without ending Patton's career. He did this because he knew he didn't just want Patton for the upcoming invasion of France, he needed him. In Sicily, Patton had proven he moved faster and demoralized the enemy more effectively than any other commander. Eisenhower saved Patton's career at a great personal cost, promising his superiors that the general would be controlled. But privately, Eisenhower wasn't entirely sure Patton was right about the toughness required in war. He understood the mindset, even if he couldn't condone the actions. In public, he reprimanded him. In private, he protected him. Before D-Day in 1944, Eisenhower used Patton's fearsome reputation as the centerpiece of Operation Fortitude. He placed Patton in command of a fictitious ghost army to trick the Germans into thinking the invasion would hit Calais instead of Normandy. The deception worked brilliantly, saving thousands of Allied lives, but it drove Patton insane. He felt humiliated playing the actor, while other generals earned glory on the beaches. Eisenhower couldn't tell him the full truth, that at that moment, Patton was more valuable as a phantom than as a commander. When Patton's Third Army finally went operational in August 1944, They executed the most spectacular advance in modern military history, liberating towns and shattering German lines at a pace no one could match. Eisenhower watched with both pride and anxiety. He was proud that their 1919 theories were being proven right, but anxious because Patton was outrunning his supply lines and creating political friction. While Patton demanded more fuel to reach Berlin in 2 weeks, Eisenhower had to restrain him to balance the needs of the entire Allied coalition. Privately, Eisenhower often agreed with Patton's military logic, but as Supreme Commander, he had to prioritize the post-war world over a single battle. The ultimate payoff came in December 1944, during the Battle of the Bulge. As the German surprise attack shattered the Allied lines, Eisenhower turned to Patton in a grim emergency conference. "George, how long will it take you to attack?" Patton, who had already wargamed the scenario, replied, "December 22nd, 3 divisions, 72 hours." Despite the skepticism of other generals, Eisenhower trusted him. Patton delivered, pivoting his entire army through a winter storm to blunt the German offensive. It was the moment that made every diplomatic headache Eisenhower had endured for Patton worth it. When the crisis hit, Patton did what no one else could. Publicly, Eisenhower always calibrated his praise for Patton to maintain balance among his other generals, but in staff meetings, he often asked, what would Patton do? He valued Patton's ability to see opportunities where others saw obstacles. When the war ended, Patton's bluntness became a political liability, eventually forcing Eisenhower to relieve his old friend of command, one of the hardest decisions of his life. After Patton's death, Eisenhower's diplomatic mask finally cracked. In private letters, he admitted that Patton possessed a willpower that could not be taught or replicated. He confessed that the decision to hold Patton back sometimes haunted him, wondering if the war might have ended sooner had he given Patton more freedom. He famously called Patton indispensable, a word that implies the outcome of the war might have been different without him. Eisenhower went on to become president, but he never forgot the man from Camp Meade. He recognized that while Patton was uniquely suited for the chaos of war, he was impossible to manage in peace. America lost more than a general on December 21, 1945. It lost a force of nature. Eisenhower had spent years protecting Patton from himself, and only after he was gone could Eisenhower finally admit how much that effort had cost him and how much it had been worth it.